In this video, we will go over the concept of conversions in areas between square inches and square feet, and as well as various examples of real world situations where tiles need to be calculated in terms of how many tiles will fit into a given area when the tile is different units than the area that you know. So in our first example, we've got a tile here, and it's a 1 foot by 1 foot tile. And what I'm trying to relate here is we're going to try to come up with the conversion ratio that shows just how many square inches are in 1 square foot. So this tile that you can see here is 1 foot by 1 foot. So 1 foot here by 1 foot here. So its area is really 1 foot squared. So that's what we've got up here, this conversion factor, 1 foot squared. And we want to figure out how many inches squared this is. Well, first thing to know is that in 1 foot, there are 12 inches. On the right, 12 right here. And on this side, it's also 12 because we're talking about a square here. Now, if we want to figure out how many square inches are in here, we really need to divide this thing up into all of the square inches. So I'm really going to have, let's see, if I'm starting on the right side here, I gotta break this into 12 rows. But I gotta do the same thing with the columns because there's really 12 inches there too. So I'll kind of just break it in halves here. Now I could sit here and count all these little dots, or I could be a little more clever about it. The reality is that it's 12 by 12. So there's really 12 times 12 square inches in 1 square foot, and 12 times 12 is 144. So there's 144 inches squared in 1 square foot. So let's suppose you have an area of 2 square feet, and you want to know how many square inches you would have. So in this example, we're starting out with 2 feet squared, and we want to convert it into inches squared. Now the way to do that is to put the conversion factor here, to multiply by the conversion factor in such a way so that the feet squared units cancel and you're left with inches squared. So when I do that, let's try a couple of examples. So here's my conversion. Suppose I put 1 foot squared is 144 inches squared. And things cancel when you have the same thing in the numerator as you do in the denominator. In this case, I don't have the same thing in the denominator and the numerator, so the feet do not cancel, and we're not going to get what we want. So we got to switch it around. We've got to switch the 144 and the 1 foot around, the conversion factor, so that it works the way we want. So I'm going to switch it around, and I'm going to get 144 inches squared in 1 foot squared. Now it's going to cancel the way we want because the feet squared cancel with the feet squared, and we're left with just the inches squared unit. And we multiply across. This is really 2 over 1. It's going to be 2 times 144, which is 288 inches squared. And it makes sense, right? If you've got 2 feet squared, the number of inches squared you should have should be a much bigger number, and it really is. It's 288 inches squared. Now let's go down to another example. Suppose you're working backwards. Suppose you start with 720 inches squared, and you want to convert it into feet squared. Well, let's start with 720 inches squared, okay? And we need to come up with that conversion factor. Remember back up here at the top? The conversion factor is going to relate inches squared to feet squared, and I want to do it in such a way that the inches squared disappears, and we're left with feet squared. So the way to do that is to write it this way. Feet squared over 144 inches squared. So the inches squared units cancel, and you're left with the feet squared units. And now we need to take 720 divided by 144, because if I were to write this, it'd look like this. And that's going to simplify to feet squared. So I took 720 and I divided it by 144 inches squared to convert the square inches into square feet. Let's look at this example over here. Suppose you have a square tile and it's 16 inches by 16 inches. And let's suppose you've got a floor that's 10 feet by 10 feet, and you want to figure out how many of these tiles are going to fit in that floor. Well, step one is to find total area. So the total area in feet is going to equal 10 times 10, which is 100 feet squared. And we need to figure out how many feet squared are in, or how many tiles will fit in 100 feet squared. So what we need to do is we need to figure out the square feet of one tile. Well, let's see. We got to think about that for a second. Better pull up my calculator. So in 16 inches, I got to figure out how many feet that is. Well, 1 foot is equal to 12 inches. So how many feet are in 16 inches? Well, let's think about that. If I take this times 1 foot is 12 inches, these cancel, and I'm going to get 16 over 12 feet for each of these lengths. 16 divided by 12 is 1.33 feet, 1.33 feet. So that means the dimensions of this thing are 1.33 feet by 1.33 feet. Okay, great. Now if we can figure out the area of this thing, we can figure out how many tiles we need. So to find the area, we're going to take 1.33 times 1.33, and that's going to give us, let's see, it's approximately 1.77 feet squared. Okay, so that's how much the area of this tile is. I got to figure out how many of these fit into 100 square feet. Here's how to do that. You're going to take 100 feet squared, and you're going to divide it by 1.77 feet squared. Because each tile is 1.77 feet squared, so the number of times that goes into 100 is how many tiles I need. So I'm going to take 100 divided by 1.77, and I get about 56.5 tiles, so really I need 57 tiles. Okay, suppose the tiles come in boxes of 20 tiles in a box. Based on the answer from 2, how many boxes would need to be purchased? Well, remember from the prior answer, we needed 57 tiles, so let's think about how many boxes that is. So if we had 1 box, we'd have 20 tiles. If we had 2 boxes, we'd have 40 tiles. Is that enough? No, we need 57 total, so 3 boxes would give us 60 tiles, and that would be enough. So this would be it. We need 3 boxes.